What's up, y'all? What's going on? Welcome back to my channel. I am Ro. I'm gonna try my best to not talk with my hands in this video. Let's just hop into what this video is about, which is first apartment guide or first apartment checklist, or things to know or things to prepare for as you search for your first apartment. Even if it isn't your first apartment, maybe it's your first apartment without a roommate, maybe it's your first apartment without any help. So I hope this video is of any help to anyone that lands in those categories. I got a lot of notes, so I'm gonna try my best to make this video short and sweet to the best of my ability. First things first, all things mentioned in this video will vary by location and per property. Approval for apartments may be a little bit different in the South than it would be in the East or the West, but I think the things mentioned here can be used, or at least make someone aware of all the things that come along with apartment searching. Things to consider when you are apartment hunting. These things are not in any particular order, but number one, location, and that includes distance and environment. Is it a good environment? Is it an environment that you're cool with staying in? And also, how far is it from the place that you travel to most frequently? Like if it's school, if it's work, do you prefer to be downtown? Do you prefer to be on the outskirts? So definitely the location plays a big part. Cost is probably the number one thing, because you have to pay money to keep apartment. Look at my hand already coming into the frame. Next thing, which is a big one for me, pest. Do the apartment look like they're prone to insects or bugs? Is it near a forest? Is it near something that will attract a lot of bugs? Is there good pest control? And then your apartment amenities, such as washer and dryer, updated appliances, closet space, bathtubs. That's one of mine. I'm very particular about bathtubs. Balcony, just things that you want in particular, and making sure that you include that on your want list for your apartment. And next thing would be your property amenities. So what things are you looking for within a property? Pool, a good lounge area, a media area, fitness, good parking. Just to include a quick tip, I always suggest, if you can and if you are near the property, schedule a tour. You really want to see how you feel when you go to the apartment. Sometimes an apartment may not have all the things on your list, but once you go and visit, you'll catch a vibe and you'll say like, hey, it may not have this, but I'm cool with living here. So after the whole apartment hunting phase, the next thing to do would be to apply. So let's talk about applications. What should you expect or prepare for as you do your application? So number one is going to be your basic personal info, birthday, social security, that type of ordeal. The next thing would be your previous addresses and prior rental history. If this is indeed your first apartment, more than likely your previous address would be your parents' house or wherever you were staying prior. So if you do have a rental history, more than likely you will be asked to provide some sort of a documentation or contact information to that property so that they can give them a call. It's kind of almost like a background check. Did this tenant pay on time? Were there any problems? So forth and so on. So the next thing after that rental history and previous addresses would be proof of income. So this is kind of broken down into many sections. The first thing they're probably going to ask for is, where do you work? And they're going to ask for you to provide a number of pay stubs. 6 months worth of pay stubs, 2 months worth of pay stubs. Like I said, a lot of this is respect to property. Sometimes properties require such a substantial amount of pay stubs, but verify just how long you've been working there, and making sure that you're not a tenant that frequently changes jobs, because that may affect your chances of paying rent on time, and just whether or not you are a trustworthy tenant. And also proof of income will be asked for to confirm whether or not your monthly income is 2 times or 3 times the amount of rent that is being asked. So say for instance you're applying for an apartment that has about $700 rent. You would have to make 2 to 3 times that for your proof of income to be approved. So you would have to make either $1,400 a month or $2,100 a month. Most properties do go by your gross income and not your net. So even if you don't make 2 or 3 times the rent monthly after taxes, most properties will go by your gross income. So if you are a student or you don't have a secure proof of income, you will definitely need a guarantor or a co-signer for your your apartment. Now they are different. I'm going to put the definition of both on the screen so that you guys can read it. Some properties don't allow co-signers, some properties don't allow guarantors, some properties allow both. If you do need a guarantor or a co-signer, make sure that it's someone who makes at least 3 to 4 times the rent, or someone who has a very good credit and rental history. And also, if this is your first time applying for an apartment, they do run credit checks, and I will get more into that later on as I discuss deposit and just what effects these credit checks hold. If you're able to get past all of that and get that general information out of the way, and your application is approved, or before you officially sign your lease, be sure to fully and thoroughly read your lease agreement, because anything can happen within the term of your lease. That agreement, that is a contract, so if anything were to go to court, they will be going based off of what you sign. If you don't know which questions to ask before signing, Google is your best friend. And I also wanted to mention, for students, ask the leasing agent if scholarship or student loan refund a form of proof of income. I was actually able to obtain my first official apartment with that kind of proof of income. Now this may vary depending on where you are. If you aren't in a place where there are a lot of colleges, this probably will not fly. But if you are in a college city, ask about that just in case. Getting away from the application process and what you should expect from that, let's get into the money, the fees. What are you going to be paying? So all of the fees that come along with your first apartment. So let's just start out with the apartment fees. Look at my fingers. Number one, your application fee. You will have to pay an application fee, and know that this is non-refundable. Sometimes, depending on the property, this fee can be waived if they have a special going on or something, but most times they range between $40 up to $100 for your application. Administrative fee. So what is an administrative fee? All in all, it is basically a holding fee on a particular apartment. Most times, before you even begin the application, you will have to pick a particular apartment, and when you do, you have the option of putting a hold on that apartment, and that will officially take that apartment off of the market. If you just complete an application and you never put an admin fee down for a particular apartment, that apartment is still on the market and it is still up for grabs. And admin fees can range from about $150 up to $300. And again, this is respect to location. Deposits. This is not to be confused with an admin fee. It's completely different. If this is your first apartment and they have run a credit check and you have little to no credit history, you will have to pay a higher deposit. If you have a bad credit score, you will have to pay a higher deposit. All credit history is showing whether or not you are trustworthy of receiving a loan or receiving a car or receiving property, just to see if you are trustworthy. Honestly, this honestly all it is. Sometimes you won't have to pay a deposit at all, and sometimes it can require up to a full month's worth of rent. And the deposit is not to be confused with the first month's rent. It is not that. These are completely separate entities. So if you are truly starting out and you're trying to start out without any help, like a guarantor or a co-signer, then expect to pay all of these, all of them. And also, the deposit is kind of sort of basically a damage fee. It's a damage fee and a damage control fee in a way. So during your move out process, you will go through a walk with your leasing agent or leasing manager to make sure nothing is broken, nothing is stolen or anything like that. And if everything seems to be in place and to be clean and not damaged, you will receive your full deposit back. However, if there's a walkthrough and they decide, nah, the blinds are damaged, the carpet is dirty, they will deduct all of that from your deposit. Like, they're going to try their best to keep your deposit. So I will say to definitely take care of your place and to definitely take advantage of maintenance, because that is included in your rent. And the next fee, if you do have a pet, there is a separate deposit to pay for pets. I've never had a pet, so I don't know exactly what price they range from, maybe $100 to $200 per pet, I think. And there will also be a monthly charge per pet as well, maybe between $20–40 depending on where you at in the property. But another thing, a part of the apartment fees would be your first month's rent. Your first month's rent will vary depending on your move-in day. If you move in on the first day of the month, you will be required to pay whatever your full month's agreed amount is. So if the apartment was going for $700 a month, that will be your full amount. But if you are moving in on the 15th, you will receive a prorated rent. You'll just be charged from your moving day to the end of that month. So it will be a lower amount depending on where you are, your credit score, and all of that good stuff. Some properties may require multiple months up front. So maybe your first and your last, maybe your first 2 months. Let's talk about fees that aren't included in your base rent, but it will be on your billing statement every month. So it may come as a shock if this is your first time dealing with a rental property. Fees for short-term lease, pest control, water, and valet trash. Sometimes these things can be factored into that base rent, but most times they're not, especially something that fluctuates like water. However, some properties do set a base number for water, like you're probably gonna pay $50 a month for water. So say for instance, the apartment was on the market for $700. Once you add that water, that valet trash, that pest, short-term lease fees, in case you are planning to only be there for 6, 8 months, 10 months, anything lower than 12 months, more than likely the property will charge you a short-term lease fee. So adding all that, that will go on top of that $700. It won't be included in it. It'll go on top. So let's move on from the fees that aren't necessarily a part of your apartment / property fees. I mentioned water and gas, a part of the apartment fees. However, some properties don't include that within their sector, and it is the tenant's responsibility. So I put water and gas on here, but the main thing would be utilities and renters insurance. Now I was gonna add like phone, internet, cable, and all of that good stuff, but those are actually luxury expenses. They aren't necessarily required. But utilities and renters, and depending on the property, gas, you will need to have that set in place in order to retrieve your keys. If you don't have proof of insurance or proof that you have secured an account with whatever your utility service is in your area, you probably will not retrieve your keys. Sometimes with utilities you still can get away with it, but most time insurance you cannot get away with it. So let's talk about utilities. Utilities company will also require a deposit. This is your first time ever holding an utility account. More than likely you will be required to pay a deposit, and the deposit is not small. They can range from $100, $300, $500. That's just something else to budget for. So yeah, renters insurance is not bad at all. Usually range between $20 to $50 a month, but like I said, it's another payment. It's another payment. So we're still in the fees category, but let's talk about moving expenses. This is something that will sneak up on you. Moving can range from the completely free to the debt category. Keep in mind of moving expenses such as U-Hauls if you do have a lot to move, gas. So also within that moving fees, there are going to be a lot of basic home things that you should buy that can add up. You're going to realize all of the things you need. So that first few weeks of moving, you're probably going to be making multiple Walmart trips, and that stuff can really add up. It can be vacuum cleaners, brooms, silverware, shower curtains, shower mats, towels. It can be blankets, it can be dish holders, it can be food. That stuff adds up. I would say go the cheap route first and then try to upgrade your space. That's always key. And next on the list that's included in moving is furniture. Do not underestimate how much furniture can cost. I know there's like a fairy tale stage when it comes to apartment hunting. You're saying, oh, I want my apartment to look like this, and oh, I want to buy this couch, oh, I want to buy this dining table, oh, I want this bedspread, I want this sort of a bed. These things come at a price. At least try to get the basic thing like your bed, and then try to learn your space before you go into buying furniture, because the ideas that you have in your head versus what will look nice in your apartment may be different. Now let's move away from the fees and the application, and let's just get into some things that you should keep in mind throughout the apartment throughout this process. Keeping documentation of everything is so very important. I don't care how small of a detail it is. That can be taking pictures, save important emails. I literally take a picture of every single check, every single receipt, every single deposit, and I make sure that I take those pictures the day that I get them, so that the record will show that I had that check, that I sent that check, or I received that receipt on that day. You want to literally treat this as if one day you're going to go to court about it, and you want to make sure all your ducks are in a row if you go to court. Go make copies of your lease, go make copies of your checks, go make copies of your receipt, make copies of every single thing. Another big thing, make sure that you know who helped you out with your lease or with your application, because properties tend to go through a rotation of workers. So the person that helps you with your lease may not be the person that helps you with move outs. So if you and your leasing agent that helps you with your lease had some sort of a unwritten agreement about something, the person that moves you out doesn't know about it, and they don't care, honestly. So making sure that you know who helped you at every point. Another thing to keep in mind is to, if you can avoid settling for an apartment, I would definitely suggest to not settle, because more than likely this will be somewhere you'll be living for a year or more. Again, thoroughly read your lease. Thoroughly read your lease. And another thing with your first apartment, when you're in that stage of getting your first apartment, you see the amount, but you really don't see it in the most realistic form as possible. So I want to say this: understand that that rent amount isn't a one-time fee. It is a reoccurring payment that sneaks up on all of us. So understand, this is something that you will have to pay every 4 weeks, and do not underestimate how much that can add up and how tricky that could be. So before you try to run off and get the most expensive and nice apartment, really be honest with yourself about your finances, okay? Very, very honest about your finances. And the next thing on my list is to understand that you may be moving alone. So understand that people have other things going on, and you may not receive the help that you thought you would moving into your apartment. So don't be surprised if you don't get as much help moving in or through the process as you thought. Moving and the responsibility of an apartment is a very normal thing in adulthood. So most people won't stop their lives to help you out or anything like that, because it's a common thing. Yes, it may be exciting for you, but it won't be exciting for the people around you unless y'all are like super close. Don't be surprised if you don't get as much help as you would like or that you would expect. Another tip: set the tone for your place almost immediately. And what I mean about setting the tone for your place, bless your place. Bless it, cover it in whatever way that you see fit. This is your place. Set the tone and the vibe for your place immediately. If you come up in there mad the first few days, don't expect for the energy in your house to be calm and relaxing if you're coming up in there mad all the time. It's your place. Set the tone. Alright, this next tip is regarding moving out. After you've moved out, always double check maybe 2 to 3 weeks after moving out. Give the property a call and make sure you don't have any outstanding balances on your account. They'll just charge it to you, and if you never pay it, it'll just go into collection and it will affect your credit score. So I would say get ahead of that by double checking 2 or 3 weeks after moving out to make sure that you have a zero balance. Another tip: ask about promos, deals, or specials that the property has going on. Most time the leasing agent will mention it. Sometimes you can get free months rent or 50% off your rent, maybe $100 off your rent. Always ask about deals. If you have been saving up for an apartment and you have saved up enough to cover your entire lease, I do not suggest, just me, take it with a grain of salt, I do not suggest that you use all of the money that you save to pay up your lease up front. Now I will say that security of maybe 2 or 3 months, I would pay that, but put that other money to the side for an emergency funding or just to cover those other moving expenses that you may have. But I would not suggest using all of that money to completely pay for your lease. I just don't think that's a smart idea, but so many things can and will happen in the duration of your lease. So I would say maybe 2 to 3 months, and if nothing has happened in that 2 to 3 months and you still have that money, I would say pay another 2 months. I would say just pay it over a span of months. Don't pay it up front. This is a rental property. This is not something that you own, so you should not invest that high amount of money into anything that you do not own. Another tip, a tip that you probably don't want to hear if you're a teenager and you're ready to get out your parents' house, but if you do not have to move out, don't move out. Just keep stacking until you reach your absolute breaking point and not a moment before. Don't leave, because once you're in this life, it's going to be hard to return. Another thing to keep in mind, that consider finding a roommate. If you don't necessarily want to live alone, but you want to get out of maybe your parental supervision, and you can share that responsibility of an apartment with someone else. Pick them wisely though. Pick them wisely. If you are a student, I would say to look at student-based living options. You are in a college city, more than likely there are several complexes that are specifically for off-campus students and are literally designed to accommodate students. So I would definitely include that in the search. And that is actually it for this video. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but I tried my best to get through it. But if you guys think that I left out anything, be sure to leave out your points and your advice down below in the comment section. And to anyone that may be moving out on their own, don't get discouraged during the process. Just make sure that you are making very conscious and educated decisions throughout the process, and you should be good. Even if the apartment turns out to be a lesson learned, it's okay. It's a part of life, and what's life with no lessons, right? Don't forget to leave that comment down below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Mwah.